All right.
Great. Yeah, I think, yeah, if more people are going to join, so we're going to let them in. So super, super welcome to the Slack community. 2 chapters today, Amsterdam and London, hosting 2 amazing speakers. So we're going to introduce them to you as well. We are very excited to do it today with you because a lot of things are happening and a lot of teams are talking right now about how to be effective. And there are so many instruments, and Slack is launching new features, and Slack is also working on some ways to make your life much easier when you use Slack. So we really want to talk about things that are working. So things that are making our life much, much easier. So I'm going to start with a small presentation. We're going to give you a few updates on the Slack community, how to join. There will be something very, very curious that my co-host Thomas from London is going to share with you, so you can get some presents today. And we will hear from our speakers their tips, advice of on the building the effective teams, and we will have time to ask them anything that we find going to be relevant to today's topic. Okay.
Yeah,
So
welcome again. And yeah, just to reiterate, so as an incentive for everyone to stay, so we are committing not to last for more than 1 hour. So we will have wrapped up everything actually now within 55 minutes. But if you stay until the end and you fill the form, I'm just going to share in the chat, you can get a chance to win some goodies. So we will tell you a little bit more about what goodies you can win during the presentation. But yes, please bear with us. But anyway, this is going to be a very interesting and exciting topic. So I don't really doubt that you're going to be riveted to your screens. Yeah.
Yeah, so wait for the link from Thomas dropping in the chat any minutes now, right? That's good. Okay, so effective communication. So that's what was a big part of building effective teams. So that's what we're going to spend the time today. And I would like to just a second. Yeah. So I just remind you, so try to close the tabs, just try to minimize the noise around you, because listening and doing something in parallel is a little bit harder, although it's going to be recorded so that you can watch it later. So that's just a friendly reminder. So super welcome to Amsterdam chapter. My name is Ala, and I started in 2020 in January as a Slack community chapter lead in Amsterdam. And we run regular 4-5 events per year. So just how to check it out. We are going to leave you the link as well, so you can actually join any chapter you like, but you can also start your own chapter. If you see that Slack doesn't have a chapter in your city, this is your chance so that you can run your own. So it's a lot of fun, I promise. And we have a London chapter here as well today. Thomas, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, so I'm Thomas. I've been the Slack Community London chapter lead for about 2 years now. Same as Ala, I'm also aiming to host 4 to 5 events every year. Yeah, they've been pretty successful so far. It's quite nice to see the community gathering and share about the best practices about using Slack, tips and tricks. We've also got access to one dedicated Slack workspace and forum as well that's hosted by Salesforce for people to ask questions if they run into an issue about how to best use Slack. And we've also got some app developers, administrators, or even Slack users who just come and share about how they use Slack and how they integrate it with their toolset in their everyday life. So yeah, I can see some of the people here in the audience today have come to my previous events. So happy to see you again, and welcome here today.
Amazing. Okay, good. And I think, Thomas, yeah, London chapter is one of the biggest in, if I'm not mistaken, right? So
yes, it is. I mean, clearly London, one of the biggest cities in Europe as well. So
yeah.
But yeah, it's quite a dynamic type of community. We've only had online events so far, but I'm really hoping we can get some on-site event at some stage, because there's something a bit different to being in the same space and same room as other people and being able to share cold pizza and warm beer over some conversations. So yeah, looking forward to this opportunity as well. But this is exciting as well, and yeah, I'm looking forward to today's chat.
Good. Yeah, so this is the plan for today. Quickly go through some nice updates that we have for you. And yeah, like we have a presentation and the Q&A session. Just to wrap up. And yeah, so this is a kind of reminder. So why we actually here? So Slack provides a lot of support to the community. And these are the main pillars that we stand on. And these are our values. So we have in this community, software engineers, product managers, people who are building their startups, people who are writing their own APIs, managers, anyone, students as well. So this is the community of people who really would like to join and to learn something, share something, maybe get some inspiration, or maybe even inspire someone, or just connect with other people in other locations or in the same locations to do something together. But it's all about the things that you can do with Slack. So this quickly, I love the data. So this is actually one of my favorite points. It's like the data points. It's very interesting that like around 3,000 messages are sent per second in Slack. So this is actually fascinating for me. And we have more than 1 million developers building applications. So this is really amazing. And yeah, so just a quick update in terms of what is going on. So recently we had Dreamforce, the yearly event run by Salesforce and now joining by Slack. You can have a lot of interesting videos and access to them by registering, and you can watch a lot of interesting topics. So let me unshare my presentation for a second. And I would like to show you just, if you go here, I'm going to drop the link in the chat. Yeah, you can register and get the videos for free, absolutely. And you see the speakers, and you can find the topics that you like. And hopefully it's going to be something that you really, really enjoy. Sorry, it's a little bit slower than I wanted. So like awesome speakers. In here, I promise. So the link is in the chat. Hopefully you can open it faster than I do. And also gonna drop it for you guys as well, the link for the Slack community. So you can go here and find any chapter in any location. And for example, if you go here in Europe, so you can see that's how many, and if you don't see your city, I really inspire you, just go and open your own. So it's very, very easy. So coming back, sorry for the presentation. So this is the community link, how to share it. I'm going to drop it in the chat as well. So you can join us and just observe and just see what people are doing there. So finally, we can move to our speakers. And I'm very, very excited to introduce you all to Maggie Taylor. So she actually recently, together with Mareike and another speaker today, just recently published the book that I already read, because it's a lot about the culture and we do care about the culture. And I met Meggy when she was working in Lilium, and I was really fascinated about her stories, about the companies that she worked in, Tesla and others. So she has a lot of great experiences. So she's going to share it with us. So Meggy, the floor is yours for the first one to kickstart today's talk.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Alla. Thank you for the wonderful introduction. Thank you, Slack community, for being here today. And also thank you, Thomas, of course, for having us. Mareike and I are really happy to share some experience, useful tips on the topic, of course, of effective communications and effective team. Alla probably mentioned before, and some of you guys who have been here before, you know that this is an interactive experience, so please don't be shy. Mareike and I are super happy to answer any questions during the Q&A session. We love talking. And so, yeah, so anyway, so thank you for having us. Great. With regards to effective communication, Alla, if you don't mind, pop down to the next slide for us. We really wanted to start talking about leadership. So when it comes to effective communication, we really feel that leadership is something we need to talk about and take a closer look at. Obviously, leadership, as you guys know, exists in all of us, and it shows through our daily actions and communication. And as humans, we communicate naturally, right? So we talk all day long. We love sharing stories. We love connecting with each other. But communication with purpose makes all the difference, actually. And that's what we're going to talk about today. So as a leader of a group of people, you want to ensure that you always keep your people informed, connected. You keep them focused on a common goal at any given time. But it's also about removing obstacles, is fostering learning and development, enabling your team to make decisions. And when you create an effective team, individuals are more likely to collaborate themselves, thrive on challenges, and feel more engaged. So if you think about yourselves, I don't know the audience in person, but some of you, might be leading a team, some of you might be leading a company, some of you might be individual contributors working on projects. And as Mareike and I go through this conversation today, you will probably resonate with some of the things that we are saying. So Mareike and I will share some practical tips today on how to create effective communication in teams. And there's one thing actually we wanted to share that we haven't mentioned before. So we haven't mentioned any of this during any podcasts or keynotes. We actually didn't put this in our book Culture Up either. But this is something we want to share today with this closed audience, because we thought that it was really relevant for you guys on this particular topic. So Ala, if you don't mind, and if you swap to our next slide, awesome. Thank you very much. So I'd like to talk about the 5 stages of effective teams. And when you look at this little slide, I'm not sure if anyone has heard of the 5 stages of effective teams before. I'm not sure if anyone wants, put your hand up if you have, and if not, I'll take it not, because not a lot of people have, so it would be really interesting. Yeah, some people have, ooh, look at you. Awesome, love it. Okay, so hopefully for some of those that already know it, you might find some practical tips from us. And for those who haven't heard about it, I think talking about the 5 stages of team development, or how to create effective teams, is actually quite important when it comes to effective communication, because with effective communication, you can help yourself through these 5 stages. So where I'm going to start, obviously, today is the forming stage. So the green stage on the top here that you can see in this lovely little picture there. And I'm going to delve into this in a minute. And I just want to give you some background first and foremost about this particular information. So these 5 stages were put together by a psychologist called Bruce Tuckman. He researched the team dynamics of group development in the 60s. And it's really interesting how useful it is, especially when you are a leader or you're managing products, or even just to be an individual contributor, to understand these stages, because we all go through them. And if you are aware of them, it makes it easier for you to navigate. And as a people leader, quite often you assemble teams from scratch. You might be inheriting a team. You might be assembling teams for specific projects. So actually knowing how to work through these stages and how to communicate will really help you. It will make all the difference. So let's go back to the first stage. So that's the forming stage, the most natural stage that you have. And as you can appreciate, that's where everyone gets together. People get to know each other. People get comfortable with each other. And the most important part here actually is to make it very clear to people what you expect as a leader forming the group and what it is that they need to be doing. And one of the most crucial stages here is to make people feel safe and ensure that they can be themselves. And what you will figure out with Mareike and myself, if you get to know us over time, we're very much into people. That's our thing. We love it. It's all about how you make people feel, how you create a good culture. So this is really important in the forming stage. Make people feel safe and let them be themselves. So a tip that I would like to share is that this is a really good time to create those relationships between yourself as the leader, and also to create an environment where your team can get to know each other and trust each other. So I thought that I would share a personal experience with you guys to make it relevant, right? So I was fortunate enough during my time at Tesla and also at Lilium to build teams from scratch. And that has its pros, but that also brings its challenges, right? when you start it all up from the ground. And one thing that I thought really helped me in this particular stage was that I created regular one-to-ones with each individual person of the team. And I would spend 5 minutes at the beginning of each one-to-one and ask them, how are they doing? How are things? What can I do to help them? Make it very clear that this is their time to give me feedback and vice versa before I even delved into the daily tasks. And it sounds really simple, but I also know from experience with working with a lot of leaders, it is something that gets really forgotten about. So this people aspect of spending your 5 minutes at every single meeting makes a real difference if the people trust yourself and feel safe or not. Going back to psychology. Something else that we did, that might be something that some of you are already doing or not, we set up regular team meetings and created a safe zone where everyone in the team could share problems that they had and save them, come up with some solutions as a group, or even, share highlights, things that went really well and celebrate it as a group. But it was a very clear communication to say, this is our safe zone. Whatever we discuss stays in here. Everybody agrees on that. And it made people feel really good. So that's literally the first stage of the 5 different parts that you go through as a team. And the second one that I think is really important to discuss is actually the storming stage. This one is critical for you if you're a people leader. This is where you really need to pay attention, if you like it or not. But the storming stage is actually the one where conflict happens. People get competitive, especially if you have some really high performers, but through that can come frustration. It could turn into anger, gossip, sabotage. This is the stage where individuals, a group gets together and they assert themselves. They have opinions, they are passionate, competitive. So this is where, as a leader, you want to really pay attention. And on that note, actually, I thought of some anecdotes from my experience working and hiring a lot of leaders at different levels at any given stage, or project managers. And one thing that I'd like to share is a summary, really, of what worked for them best during this stage, because it's a difficult phase, right? And one thing that I have heard over and over again that worked really well in this particular stage is when the leader kept the team focused on a common goal and company values. So I'm not sure if some of the companies that you guys work for or with have company values, but if you have a team that drifts apart, pushing them back and holding them back together and focusing them on a goal, focusing them on values can often help, because it somewhat distracts from the competitiveness, the sabotage, the anger that might happen. So that might be something that you can find really helpful. Another thing that I also know has helped a lot of leaders in the past is, be open with your team, discuss daily challenges with them and make it very clear that you want to discuss daily challenging. So what holds the group back from reaching their goal, and make it clear that it's not about blaming. This is about looking at a problem and solving it as a group. So this helped a lot as well. So it's all about taking the mind forward and taking them out of the current situation. But of course, obviously at this stage, it's really important that you remain professional at all times, manage your emotions as a leader, and communication is absolute key. So this is really the stage where you do not retrieve. This is the stage where you over communicate, because if you leave people alone and if you give them time to guess, it's not a good place to be. So tackle head on. And if it's a really tricky situation, speak to individual privately or involve HR. I think it's a really good way of tackling what they call the storming stage, which is the second stage and the most uncomfortable stage quite often for people within the team, but also the leader. So I'm hoping you're finding this helpful. I'm bringing you off to the third stage now, which is one that I personally really like. This is the norming stage, which is the third stage. And I'd love, you know, for my team to be always in the third and fourth stage, but that is not reality, right? So the norming stage is the phase really where all this conflict and disagreement goes away. This stage is typically when members of the team start trusting each other more, and they trust you as a leader because they trust that you are there for the group. And this is really the stage where you don't want to lean back at all. So you continue to work on your relationships with the team as a whole, but also in person. And to make sure that your team and your communication always works, again, I thought, I hope you don't mind if I share another personal experience that I had actually at Lilium. So Lilium had great ambitions. I'm not sure if you know the company or if you've looked at it. Mareike obviously still a part of Lilium. It's super interesting. Lilium was so ambitious that we couldn't match the ambition with the existing permanent recruiting team. So what we had to do, so I made a decision to actually go outside and involve an external provider, recruiting provider, to invite some of their recruiters in and ingrain them into my existing permanent team. So I did it right from the beginning of setting things up. And in the norming stage of the group being together, what I actually did, and which helped me quite rather a lot, was weekly meetings. And on top of the agenda, in the weekly meetings, was always to discuss actually processes this time around, systems, communication. So how does the process work right now? How do the system work? How do we communicate with each other? What works well, what doesn't? So it was one thing to discuss daily tasks and how we move along in the project. The other thing was, do you have everything you need in order to be successful? Do you have everything you need in order to connect? Do you have everything you need in order to make decisions? Because it's not just about me, it's about the group. So that was really helpful. So you can try that. And of course, in my one-to-ones, I really encouraged the team to make decisions. A leader is there to facilitate, like I said before. A leader isn't there to make all the decisions. When you're sitting in a boat and you're rowing, it's not about the leader shouting at everybody. The leader is rowing with you, right? So it's all about facilitating that. Oops, sorry, just flashed my microphone there. And one other thing, of course, that I will do in this stage, as much as the beginning stages, is to actually have team events. So never underestimate the power of people getting together if they can, physically and location-wise, but there's also ways of doing it. So I personally love the norming stage, and this gets me now to almost to the end, because the performing stage, which is the fourth stage, is really where everybody wants the team ideally at any time, right? So that's the stage where the team is cohesive. That's the stage where the team performs, you know, we're at the peak level, where they deliver results, happy days. And in order to do that and facilitate that all the time, I find what works really well as a tip is to positively highlight individual actions and team actions that have been taken towards solving problems and also making decisions. Because remember, with effective communication, it's not just about you, it's about people feeling empowered and heard, and able to make decisions. So encourage that. You know, listen to the feedback from the stage before, the third one, the norming stage. Take that feedback on board. See if you can make changes to platform systems, ways of communication, keeping that communication open. And if you can make changes and improvement, communicate that, because that will allow your team to feel heard. It will make your team feel like they contributed to the project or to the bigger picture. And it will allow them to work more independently, which is what you want at any given time. And this is all about communicating well and creating those effective teams in the end of the day. So continue to praise your people for effort and encourage positive behaviors. But one really important thing and tip that I have, which is one thing that I've learned, is that when you praise people, mean it, because people can see right through you. They know if you're sincere or not. And I think there's nothing worse than getting a well done that is not sincere. So maybe praise less, but do it when, you know, when it's sincere. And that gets me to the end, so you don't have to listen to me any longer in a second. The fifth stage is the adjourning stage, and typically occurs more when you lead a project team, let's face it, because that's the time when things end, or when you're leading a smaller group. It's a time where the goal is achieved and the objectives are achieved, and it's all good, happy days. So from a communication perspective, a tip that I've learned throughout the time is to, again, go the extra mile as an individual, as a leader of the team, and summarize what worked well in this particular project. You know, summarize it, share it with the group. You want to enable people to learn through communication. You want to enable to better themselves through communication, to make more decisions in the future. And you can do that by summarizing what has happened during the time you worked with each other, what worked well and what didn't, so people can reflect on it. And I think the other things, of course, is keep your personal relationships going. You know, you always see each other twice in life and in business. And of course, thank everyone for what they have achieved. And I think one thing that's really important as well is to, when you wrap it up, to also explain to people what difference it has made for the overall business. So whatever you achieved and closed off, make them really feel like they understand the overall impact that they had, because people will always remember how you made them feel. And if you manage to make them feel good about themselves, if you manage to make them feel like you've pushed them through the way you communicate with them and you allowed them to have communication channels, they will always remember how you make them feel. Yeah, and I think that's it. So when we take a step back and look at the circle as a whole, remember that we're all humans. We are people, you know, teams, companies, we all go through cycles, we all go through stages in life. So the more you're prepared and the better you communicate during a time where it becomes difficult, it will make all the difference. Yeah, and that's it for me. That it's about the 5 stages and leadership. And I would actually like to hand over to Mareike in a second, because she has a lot more practical advice and tricks for you. So thank you for listening to me.
Thank you so much, Maggie. Millions of questions. So if anyone in the chat has questions, please, you can save them and ask in person, or we are going to look into the chat and try to cover them later at the end of the presentation. But yeah, thank you so much. Very inspiring in a way, but many, many questions. So let us hold till the end.
Of course.
And yeah, Mareike, super welcome on the stage, and they're very excited. And if I'm not mistaken, you have a PhD as well, right? So can you tell us a little bit more about yourself?
No PhD, unfortunately. I've got a master's degree, but I did it in Maastricht, Netherlands.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, in culture, actually. So yeah, I had to learn it first in order to experience it. I'm still employed at Lilium, and I was the 4th employee there. So I actually started everything together with the co-founders and 3 others. And I had to learn it the hard way. But eventually, Maggie and I, we met there actually, and we realized that we did some things right, and we, learned from our own mistakes, did it better the next time. And we're here to share our knowledge that everybody or others don't have to make these mistakes. They can learn from ours. Yeah, if you hear some noises in the background, I've got 2 little children, and the daddy is just trying to keep them calm, but you know how kids are. Right, I want to start right away because I've got a lot to say, and I hope you're excited as I am. Before I start, though, I want to emphasize again that Maggie said it already. We address a lot leaders, of course, in our presentation, but we cannot emphasize enough that it is equally crucial to any team member, any person, what we say, because everyone leads a conversation, leads and moderates meetings, leads personal relationships, and which are built on communication. So it's not by chance that we use the word lead here. We all are leaders in some way or the other, especially when it comes to communication. So this goes to all of you. And also when we all understand these things, we can give more profound feedback, challenge status quos, and thus help improving the environment we live in or we work in, and make things more effective in general, in private as well as in professional life. So now that we know that a team goes through phases and a group of people, as well as I said, in private life or professional, we know how to support, facilitate, and enable the team in a specific phase, then we all can thrive and become happy, motivated, effective, and pull together. And this is only feasible, and we can only do so through effective communication. So what is effective communication? Communication is effective when it fulfills its purpose, is suited for the specific situation, and has the audience in mind, always. In the words of my former communication science professor, and this is everything you need to take away from whatever I say now, but this is really important, I think. He said, communication is successful or effective when the recipient understands what the sender meant, not said, but meant. So here's an example. My grandparents had a very effective and successful way of communicating. When my grandpa nodded into the direction of the main door and made a sound, my grandma understood exactly that the mailman just had been there and had delivered some post, and my grandpa had asked very politely just now if she could go and fetch the post for her because he's expecting something. You know, this is what happens when you know each other very well. She understood what he meant, not what he said. But in a team where you're not married to each other for 50 years or so, you need a bit more explicit communication, of course. In private life, the secret of effective communication is to stay open-minded and always assume the best intention. But here, as well in professional life, communication always follows one of 4 goals. So if you keep those 4 goals in mind, you can actually know what is meant, not what is said. And the 4 main goals of communication are to align, to inform, to motivate, or to connect, or a combination of those. So no matter what you want to achieve with your communication, aligning, informing, motivating, or connecting, you can deliver it so-so and hope for the best, or you can make it deliberately effective. Thank you, Alla. Now, I guess now you want to know, how can you make a communication effective, right? So there are 3 basic elements to really effective communication, which I want to share with you in a moment. But first, let's take a step back and imagine this scenario. Next slide, please. You might know the Great British Bake Off, or sorry if I don't pronounce it correctly, but Heel Holland Bakt. Now imagine you and your team are in the team challenge and you want to bake a very fancy cake. You stand in that bakery and tensions are high. You want to really deliver well. And every single one of your team is eager to win this. So you're all good to go. You're all motivated. And yeah, you want to win this. Everybody goes about their work. And after a while, though, you realize that one of your team members is beating eggs with a fork because there is no whisk. And another one is putting all ingredients together in a bucket he just found. Next, you find 2 people fighting over who can use the oven first. Another one decides to make a savvy dough out of the blue. And a third places some finished parts of the cake into the freezer to cool down, but ignores the fact that this destroys the flavor and the texture of the dough. Finally, you have to witness that 2 teammates are trying to make marzipan roses, but end up with total different styles, sizes, colors, and it just looks like a mess. So the dough hasn't even baked yet, let alone cooled down. But the filling is already ready and melting now. Okay, disaster, right? So let's take this metaphor and translate it into the real world. Next slide, please. there are clearly 3 elements missing in this scenario in order to bake a really fancy cake. The first element are tools. In order to be effective, you need tools. You need the right ones, and only those really basic ones you need. In our metaphor, you don't need a fish knife or a steamer or a meat thermometer. You can always add new ones whenever the demand requires it, but start small and simple and only add those ones you really need at the situation for your purpose at the moment. So in the setting of a company, I personally recommend to have one tool for data storage and collaboration. I dare to mention something here, Ala, I'm so sorry, but I actually want to mention Dropbox, SharePoint, or Drive. So you know what I mean with data storage and collaboration. So a CMS, if you want. One for project management, like Jira, Citrix, Trello, and one tool for communication and social interaction. And here I really highly can recommend a combination of mails, Slack, and meetings. Personal meetings, live or hybrid, doesn't matter. So these 3 are really the basic ones you need. Of course, there are more, it depends on what kind of purpose your company has. But the really tricky thing is, if you have them, you decided on them, you rolled them out, don't forget to communicate which ones you want and make sure no other are used. So if someone sends you a WhatsApp, then please either don't react or tell them, look, we've got, in this case, Slack or mail, please use those, because we have to collect information, we have to collect communication. So we find things again. So we know this has been sent already. I can search my mail or Slack, and I don't have to search all my channels. It's a no-brainer. So communicate which ones you want and which others you don't want, and how they work with your team. The second element are rules. You want to establish behaviors. So when I say rules, I also mean policies, processes, behaviors, things you need to write down in order to make people know how to behave. You need to make sure they behave in the right ways. So if their collaboration runs smoothly, they are effective and productive, of course. And here again, it doesn't matter if it's your team and you're the leader, or if you're just one of the team members. You can always demand certain rules to be in place, or demand policies to be created, because obviously there is the need for it. So with basic rules and processes in place, your team knows that the dough, for example, needs to be baked and cooled off before the cream filling can be made. And the decoration has to be put on only at the end. Right? Basic stuff, but it has to be written down, because there will be arguments about the slightest process, I promise. Even if you're only 2 people, you will argue about things. And once you argue about how to do things, that's the time to create an official rule or policy. You will know. So your rules should answer questions like, how should people interact? What is considered right and polite? What are no-goes and how are they punished? What do you do about them? How shall people collaborate? So how do you want a meeting to be executed so that's efficient? Where shall people store files? How shall they name them in order for everyone to find them again? What are the basic processes in your company in general? How shall they ask for days off, for example? Or how do you want to ensure equity, diversity, inclusion? Or how do you want to provide health and safety? All these rules, they have to be there in order to be looked up and be binding and legally binding even. In short, how do you want things to be done around here? And even if you're not a leader, again, you can question the lack of certain rules. You can think of new rules, you can suggest new ones, or revise existing ones. So it's really important to keep that in mind, that it's nothing is written in stone, but if it is, challenge it or follow it. A personal tip, we really did this back in the days and it was really effective, was we had a must-read Slack channel for all relevant news. It's like a news feed. And this was where we put everything in, top down and crossover teams, what everybody needed to know. You can also, with Slack, for example, you can create a project where people can look up your basic set of policies and processes. And this is something people cannot alter. It's really just kind of data storage, but Slack is always so convenient to find on your desktop. So we put it into Slack. It was the set of policies to look up again. Of course, for every project, you can create an own Slack project where only the relevant people are involved. And the nice benefit and side effect of that was that it eliminates the communication noise for others and that channels the flow of information. This was a rule we had. So if you are in a group or a new project, use the project channel, nothing else, because you have to be selective with your channels, not only top down as a leader, but also when you're working in a project. Sometimes you're working in 3 or 4 or more projects. Stick to those channels. That was a very important rule we had. And one other example was in the HR department. You could also have kind of a challenge channel where all HR members were allowed to challenge policies, because obviously policies had to come from the HR department. At least it was the case at Lilium back in the days. So as I said, it doesn't have to be set in stone, but there has to be way and room to challenge things if they're not really livable anymore. And again, also here for all rules and policies and processes, don't forget to communicate them frequently, openly, transparently, and also communicate if there are changes, if some got redundant and you skip them now, or if you have a new one, don't forget to communicate them, especially when the team is growing, because the new ones, they don't know yet, right? So they have to start from scratch. And what helped us was the intranet, where we had this kind of newsreel or photo reel, and we tried to remind people again and again and again the habit of the week or the value of the week, the rule of the day, or even made it a little bit more funny. So they're really cool things. You can engage your team and make them be aware of the rules and policies. And if there are not too many, then it's not really that gray of a topic. Okay, the third element and the last element in my case is the communication culture. It is really important to form a culture, because you could have the best tools, the best rules, the best intentions, the best team. If there is no culture and if there's no communication culture within that. So form a culture that everyone can feel safe in and belonging to. And everybody needs to feel part of something bigger. That's just our nature. We are people, we're human beings, and we need to feel part of something bigger. And they need to be feeling to be heard and valued, and that their voice is appreciated. So let's take a step back and think about what is a culture actually. The culture is basically a shared set of values, beliefs, norms, and rituals. That's what you can look up. It differs sometimes, but it is basically what a culture is. If you are in one culture and share one culture with other people, you usually have the same values, slightly the same a belief system. You share norms and rituals. So to establish a communication culture within your culture, you should make sure that everybody shares also the values of communication. For example, honest and transparent communication, be open, give and receive feedback, stay open to critical thinking, speak up and let people speak up, don't interrupt, and so on. So the values of good communication. It also entails the belief that speaking about errors, for example, improves things, and that people can learn from mistakes and they share learnings with others through communication. There can be rituals like a weekly challenge lunch where you order pizza for the team and everybody shares their ideas, critique, challenges, problems, even personal problems if they wanted to. And here again, as Maggie already said, it's really important to create a safe space. And when people come together and you tell them, look, here is the place, no one else is, and what we discuss here stays here. If there's anything We need to know, should know, you want to share, do it now, because we can help each other. So there has to be this ritual of coming together and communicating and showing that you're really open-minded and you listen. Exactly. So you can also create a Q&A Slack channel. Again, personal tip of ours. We had a Q&A Slack channel where people can ask questions randomly, maybe with mentioning tag to individuals, to teams, or to the management. Doesn't matter, but with who's this question addressed to, and then just ask a question. And the rule was that we all would answer them honestly and openly. If we couldn't, we also said so. Hey, this is confidential. We cannot share the information yet, but you will be the first ones to know. Or, you know, this is what I mean with transparency. Even if you cannot share or cannot communicate yet, then say so. People will understand that. And last but not least, we also had regular team meetings and one-on-ones, as Maggie already mentioned, where you inform, communicate, but also ask people and listen actively. Ask them, how was your day? Is there anything in your private life I can help you with? They don't need to share, of course, but you are there and you offer it. That's the most important part. So the close the loop for all three elements, you need leadership to get your team to use the tools, to obey the rules and the comms culture, the communications culture, and to utilize them to become effective in what they do and to thrive in general. So without a lead baker who leads the way, who provides the tools, who enforces the rules and lifts the communication culture, the cake will most likely fail. One last personal tip at this point: don't underestimate time off together. Like an after work drink with a team, maybe a party even, offsite events. There are even great online events you can do, like virtual coffee meetups. So everybody puts their names in a virtual hat and randomly they get picked and can have the chance to meet virtually with 2 or 3 other colleagues, not too many. And they can talk about everything except work for 15 minutes. And we did that every month at Lilium, and it was perfect because people connected personally, shared ideas, hobbies, private things, even discussed problems, and got to know that, hey, he's a programmer, but he can also, I don't know, play the guitar. So I will ask him for the next Christmas party if he wants to be in the band, right? So it brings people together. Don't underestimate that. And people are more likely to solve problems together when they like each other or know each other. So we created a Slack group in which we allowed people to create channels for personal interests and hobbies and to connect privately. This was not managed by anyone, so they were completely free to talk and create whatever they wanted. And this helped so much. I can't tell you how much people really got to know each other and helped out even in work stuff. So share a cake once in a while, get to know each other privately, bond and connect as human beings, because then you will see your team will become attuned to one another and become more and more effective. And maybe even with a little sound in the future. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mareike. Thank you so much. Really.
Thank you.
Yeah, it was a really great talk and also created millions of questions. So just to be mindful, we are going to go to the questions. I'm going to start probably sharing the screen so that we can see everyone's faces on one screen and the questions as well, right? So do we have questions in the chat? Yes, we do. Question to Meggy and Mareike. Okay, so Thomas, would you be kind to read it? I haven't seen it. It's okay. It's okay. I'm just gonna figure it out. No worries. No worries. How to make the above thoughts run on autopilot mode? What are the do's and don'ts a manager needs to practice to make the aspiration a reality? So what was the above thought? The best thing any manager would love is when your team starts working on autopilot mode and stays on top of the daily tasks with creativity and perseverance without multiple reminders of pushing, prodding. That's a tricky question.
Yeah, maybe if I start, and then Mareike, you can throw in at any time. So I think going back to setting up a framework, right? Even as a manager, you know, in order to get your team on autopilot will mean initially a lot of conversations, I'm guessing, and I hope I understood this question correct, and I hope I'm going to answer it correct now. So it's like Mareike said, is creating a structure for your team to function, tools, channels, set it all up at the beginning. But I think the most important thing is, as a manager, is to obviously have your weekly meetings, but pull people out, because being on autopilot is a good thing. People know what they need to do and how to do stuff. But when your team gets on autopilot, you could actually run into a problem in the sense that they might overwork themselves, or they don't connect enough with each other, and they don't talk enough with each other, and they work only on their own task, because everybody has a task in a project. So it's down to you as a leader to pull them back. That could be through humor. It depends on what you are like as a person, as a leader. So be authentic to yourself, but make sure that you pull them back. And like I said, give them ways where they can always look at what they need to do every day on a daily basis, so they don't have to ask you, I don't know, how to obtain a holiday or how to report sickness. Like an intranet, have that already. When you work on projects, typically have like an agile meeting platform where you meet every day and you talk about the daily tasks, but make sure you connect them. So on a Friday, for example, get your team together to just hang out. You know, some teams just have a virtual beer with each other. Some of them go on a walking challenge, whatever it may be. I hope I'm answering your question now. Let me know if I haven't, because I'm really happy to discuss if I didn't get this right.
Yes, Meggy.
Yeah.
So, in fact, what I was asking is like many a time when I said autopilot, what I meant was things functioning as the way it is supposed to, right? Not just leaving people to their own and let them do whatever they want to do, but everybody knows what needs to be done.
Yeah.
But are they doing it is a question. Most of the times it doesn't happen by default. So when it doesn't, we as managers have to kind of do a check and see where we are stuck, what needs to be corrected. Okay, is there a course correction, and from an individual standpoint also. So so how do we make this engine run in an autopilot mode towards the common goal, is probably the better way to frame my question.
Yeah, I guess so. So yeah, it's a good question. So I guess, I don't know how you work with your teams already, but I think one of the things that is quite useful is obviously being very clear about the common goal and the timeline. And then every day or every 2 or 3 days is to really check in to see if people have worked towards this goal and what holds them up. Because you have to be quite clear in order for people to prioritize what you need them to prioritize. So as a leader, you need to be quite clear and say, okay, today, you know, we need to program this button in this software, because for the business, the priority has changed. And if we don't program this button right, we are losing X amount of money. So it's a lot about how you communicate to make sure that they really understand what the priorities are. And I think I know what you mean now, because I had something similar with one of my teams once, where I communicated something specific to the business, that we promised to do certain things. And I had communicated that to my team and I thought it was clear. But I realized, because they were so busy, that went on the back of their thoughts. So I had to get them each individual into a room and said, look, guys, I was quite clear about that. Help me understand, why am I not clear? And what's the problem? And so it brought it back to the top of their mind, and they started focusing on it again. So going back to the communication, I think to always make sure they run efficient is to always explain what is important, why, and when does it need to be delivered. I always find that when you say why they need to do something, helps people to connect the dots a lot better. And when you talk to them why, then actually the switch is in the head to say, okay, actually this is priority, not just my daily task that I think I should be doing, but I get now why I need to focus on something that you might have told them. Because otherwise they just run an autopilot, do their day-to-day tasks, but it might not be the right thing. Is that helpful?
It is indeed. Thank you so much for your question. Just a quick announcement from Thomas about the form that you just filled in.
Yes, so we are running slightly late on the raffle, so I can do that. So we've actually currently got, let me share my screen very quickly. There. Okay, so we've currently got 12 entries, so just there, and I'm going to pick the names of the winner. So if you're still here, just raise your hand very quickly when I call your name. So the first winner is number 8. So this is, sorry if I mispronounce your name, Ezgi Bilici, joining us from Turkey today. Are you still here?
Yes.
Yes, so you're one of our winners. Congratulations. So you will win a set of Slack goodies. So now our second winner, number 12. So this is Maria Ochoa joining us from London today. Are you still here?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. So you're one of the winner of one of the books of our speakers today.
Great.
All right.
Thank you.
Third winner, number 8. You already won. You can't win twice. Sorry. Number 7 this time. So this is Tanvin Vanessa joining us from London. Are you still here?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. So you're also a winner of Slack goodies. And now our last winner, number 4. So this is David Ben joining us from The Hague. Are you still here?
Yes, I'm here.
All right. So you're also a winner of one of the books of our speakers. Congratulations.
Amazing.
With us. I hope you found these talks very insightful. Congratulations again on the winner. And yeah.
Thank you, Thomas. Thank you. So yeah, you're going to receive the emails with the confirmation how you get that, because we will need your addresses and we will connect to the Slack team to receive it. In the meantime, Thomas, can you please stop sharing the screen?
Yes, of course.
Thank you. We've got a few questions. So if anyone would like to stay, please do. If you need to run for another meeting, please do run to another meeting because we will record it. So thank you so much for joining those who are leaving. So, but if you have a question from Deepak still, so we would like to cover. And one question came from the community. So yeah, I'm going to start with Deepak question. That's okay? So question to Meggy. At my media company, which reports on theater, right, we discuss a lot of values. We also take time off to appreciate one another. As you say, discussing values can reduce competition, but sometimes our line of work reporting already has a lot of discussions on values. Could you suggest any other line of discussion to align the team?
Hello, thank you very much for your question. That's a really good one. Values is one thing, of course, and actually it's an interesting one you can discuss with me and Mareike, because sometimes companies have too many values and it makes it confusing. So it's actually really good to draw the main values down to maybe 4, maximum 6, because the simpler, the better for people to understand. So that's one thing. And the other thing, maybe to talk about, so what's the most important project task? Can you focus them on that? So rather than focusing them on the values, focus them on that, or focus them on previous success and how they want to replicate that. That can be helpful as well. Or sometimes actually just take them out, just take them out and let them reconnect on a personal level. I mean, you did say they value their personal time, and that's good. But you could, for example, think about taking their mind off and thinking about doing some charity work together, right? So again, reconnecting at a different level and doing something meaningful. That might be some suggestions. I'm not sure, Mareike, if you have any others, maybe?
I'm just thinking about something. We started a running group at Lilium. So we just ran, and we, with the watch, we tracked our kilometers and added them up. And then together we said the company donated X amount of money for every kilometer we run within 3 months or so. And this actually brought the team together. It was actually just a fun hobby thing, but then we made it a recurring thing because everybody found it so cool, and Lilium was okay with doing that. And so this is something you could do. And we did that in our lunchtime, basically. Yeah. Or what you can also do, if you want to go back to professional talks and you don't want to discuss values again, you could discuss something else, for example, habits. What are habits you want to improve or you want to establish, or which ones do you want to get rid of? And even if it's smoking, maybe you want to discuss this, and maybe you want to have team challenges. Someone wants to quit chocolate, the other smoking, and the other wants to do sports more. Do that and try to reconnect in a month from now and discuss the successes. This connects the team more than anything, and it doesn't take much time off, of your free time. Just some things, play around with ideas and maybe even ask them, what do you want to do?
Yeah. I think that's a really important part, to say, hey, look, guys, we've done this and that, and I want to engage it differently. What are your ideas? A perfect example, Mareike, I think actually asking your people, there's so much combined horse and brain power that typically something really good comes out of it.
Thank you, Maggie and Mareike, for the wonderful talk and the suggestions. We are going to implement it. I'm going to come back with the success results and hopefully more productivity. Thank you so much, and thank you, Slack. Thank you.
Yeah.
You know what?
You're so
Please
welcome.
do, and tell us on Slack about it.
Yeah.
Yes,
Exactly.
yes, I'm gonna do that. And yeah, because I tell you, it got boring sometimes. When you start discussing values,
Yeah.
it could get boring. And
Yeah.
I have to be honest with you. When your team is bored. But this, what you suggest is just go out, do charity work. I think people would love that. Is because people want to get out.
Yeah.
People want to get out, and I will try that. Thank you, Maggie and Mareike. Thank you so much, and Ala. Yeah.
You're welcome.
You're welcome.
Thank you so much for the question. So we do have, I think, one more question from the chat. Let me double check. So this is something that I will quickly cover. It's from Evgeny. I will really recommend to join, for software engineers, to join the forum, because there we discuss technical questions, and we are working on planning more like a hands-on meetup for building on public APIs. So this is, Evgeny, what you're interested, like really like developers sharing the experience, how you can build. One thing that I want to ask you, Evgeny, if you can reach out to me maybe after the event and share which level, because you can build like on the APIs with my level, no developer, but it's going to be very, very hard. Or you have like software engineers who really can create something. Yeah, so go ahead, tell us.
Right. So actually, we are planning for a product that aims to help to foster a culture in remote teams, and actually decouple culture from founders. So I was quite surprised to hear about the effective teams framework, because we internally developed a similar framework, except for the last stage. So we have exactly the same 4 stages in the beginning,
Awesome.
like foundation, competition, then when people understand the space and can kind of navigate it, right? When the rules are obvious, and at this moment, social mechanism has sharp edges, but also it works. And then the ideal stage. And the funny part, right now within my team, I'm a team leader. When we have a new people coming in, the first question I'm asking, like, what's your ideal stage, right? Where you want to be professionally in 5 years? And then for me, it becomes like a marker, like a northern light, to form, to get people into this 4th stage where everything is working. I know, like, what does it mean for them? I know how I can help them get there. And thank you very much for the presentation. I already ordered the book. I didn't wait for a raffle. I hope if it's okay, Mareike and Meggy, at some point I would like to reach out, to just get a reality check on our ideas.
Yeah, I think that's
like
awesome. I just wanted to suggest it, actually. It's cool, very cool what you guys are building there. I love it. Yeah, definitely. And also for all the others, if anyone wants to connect, there will be some of our details be blended into the presentation. And obviously we're both on LinkedIn. We have our own company pages and email addresses, so you can contact us directly. We'd love to hear from you, and we'd love to see how we can help out and use our experience for good.
Thank you so much. And so thank you for this question. I think this is the reason why we have Slack community, why we do that, because people meet each other, they learn from each other. Now they're going to connect with each other. So I conclude that we have a very successful event. So we should wrap up for now. Yeah, so we should also connect on LinkedIn. So, but
I can see a few people shared their LinkedIn profile
Yeah.
in the link down there, but just for everyone's sake as well. So this event today has been recorded and it will be posted both on the Slack Community London page and on the Slack Community Amsterdam page if people want to refer to it later on. And yeah.
And in the email, so we will have the follow-ups for the connection reasons, etc. Congratulations to the winners. They probably already left, but not everyone I see is here. And yeah, thank you so much, Maggie and Mareike, for this amazing session. We really appreciate your contribution to the Slack community.
Yeah, thank you, everyone. Thank you, Ala, as well, for all your effort in putting this event together. And yeah, thanks everyone for joining us today.
Bye-bye.
Thank you for having us.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you. Sorry it took longer, as always.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.